motivation.
Mm.
And that part of it is then you need to kind of generate the motivation to do it, right? Which kind of brings me to this idea, which is I've had plenty of clients give me some version of, yeah, alarms don't really work for me. Like I set the alarm, but then I just turn it off and I don't do the thing. And it took me a while to catch on to this, but then I sort of realized I'm like, you know what? Actually, the alarm worked perfectly.
Mm.
The job of the alarm is to tell you, hey, it's that time. That's it. The alarm makes you aware, right? Increases awareness. It doesn't increase motivation, right? The alarm doesn't sort of, I don't know, it doesn't pull out a
Mm.
gun and it doesn't give you a cookie, right? It's not about now that the alarm went off, boy, am I psyched to look up summer camps, right?
Right.
All it is meant to do is to generate awareness,
Mm.
the generating motivation. That's still on you in that moment, right?
Love.
So, again, medication's helpful. Not
Yeah.
being exhausted is helpful. Not being completely overwhelmed by every single thing in your life is helpful. But, so that kind of again sets the foundation. But then in that moment, being able somehow to connect to the future benefit of
Yep.
it. Like right now, I don't feel like doing this. But also, I'm never going to feel like doing this. So let's be honest there. So if the question is,
Yes.
do I want to do this? The answer is always no. Wrong question, right? The better question is, how will I feel about this later? Like
Mm.
after I have done this, how will I feel about it? Right. And if it's March, let's say when you're looking this up, right, it's really not until June that this is an issue. But come June, how am I going to feel about it? Do I want to have a really good summer? Do I want to be miserable
Right.
with the kids making me crazy all summer? Right. Because, of course, the problem with summer camp is if you wait till summer, there's no camps available,
No.
right? So if you wait till summer, you better hope your kids get arrested because the only place with openings is juvie, right? Like that's the ADHD tax of summer
Yes.
camp, right?
Yes. Oh,
So
it's so good.
yeah, or you hope you get arrested so
Yes,
you can
I'll
go
take
somewhere.
either
Right.
one.
Either one is a much better alternative. But, the problem is in March, you're like, ah,
Doesn't feel urgent,
right.
doesn't feel necessary. There's so many things that I feel like the pressure to get done today for tomorrow. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And that is part of the challenge of productivity.
Yeah.
And it's especially the challenge with ADHD, right? Is that you don't feel the future as
Yes.
strongly, right? So it's sort of like that's somebody else's problem, but that somebody else is me in the future, right?
Yeah.
It's not your neighbor's problem,
Yeah.
right? It's going to be your problem, but it's sort of this thing that like all people, we don't connect as much to our future self, which is why let's say people suck at saving for retirement,
Sure.
you know. Um but especially with ADHD, you don't feel that future self version of yourself as
Yeah.
much. So when you're sitting there on a dreary March day and you're like, ugh, summer camp, the
Yeah.
thing to do is to imagine yourself in that moment. Here I am, last day of school. How am I feeling about it if I know I got the
Mhm.
kids set up with some good camps? They're going to have a good summer. I'm going to have a good summer.
Yeah.
Um, you know, how does that moment feel
Mm.
versus how do I feel if third week of July, I still don't know what they're doing. I found them some camps, but they're going to kind of complain. Also, by the way, they're only half day camps. Also, by the way, they're like 45 minutes away. So I think I've got 20 minutes. If I were to drive home and drive back, I'll have 20 minutes at home. So, like, how many
Yep.
Targets can I
Yep.
find?
Yep.
That like, how much dish detergent do we need? Right. Like, imagining that moment and kind of
Yes.
compare and contrast. How do those two future me's feel?
Mm.
And like that's going to be the motivation. And again, calling back to where we started, it shouldn't only be, I want to avoid the terrible outcome.
Yeah.
That is not a good motivator. Rather, I want the good outcome. I want a good summer. I want my kids to have a good summer. I
Mm.
want to feel effective in my life. I want when I'm talking to my friends about like, hey, what are you guys doing? I want to feel proud of like,
Yes.
yeah, hey, we
We
got a
have a
good summer,
plan.
right? As opposed to
Yes.
like, worst parent ever. Yet again, failed my children. I hope my friends don't
Totally.
ask too many detailed questions about this camp I found for my kids, right? So, like, you know, it's the
Totally.
good stuff. Again, it is the good stuff. That is what
Yeah.
will motivate you more than just constantly kind of pulling your chestnuts out of the fire.
It will motivate us if we believe that we deserve the good.
Yeah.
And I think that that can often be this like deeper underlying self-sabotagey thing that comes up is like, I don't actually believe that I deserve to have peace. I don't actually believe that I deserve to, accomplish things step by step and then not have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the deeper work that you do with your clients. And like, if listener, you are resonating with that, that's a great place to start in therapy is like, I'm realizing that I self sabotage because maybe I don't, when I envision future me, I don't believe that he or she deserves like good things.
Yeah. Or even if somehow as a human in the world I deserve it, I don't think I can pull it off. So like
Yeah. I'm not even going
that's
to
a thing for
bother.
other people. Yeah, like why bother?
Yes.
It's not going to happen anyway. You know how it
Yes.
always falls apart in 3 days.
Yeah.
So why get my hopes up only to be disappointed again?
Mm.
That sort of acceptance of chaos, kind of,
Yes.
acceptance of the status quo.
Yeah.
Um, that does keep people stuck in these
Mm.
kind of situations. I like it doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
this.
I really love the concept of like your future self. I think that is a really, really helpful concept. And one of the things that I did a couple years ago when I was really working on my time management was in my alarms, set the reminder as like how I would want to feel, how I would feel after.
Ooh,
So it's kind of like in the alarm title is like, get this done, get it done now. Don't put it off. You're going to feel so much better. Like
yeah,
a very direct, which, it takes some executive function to like set that up. But there are things, and even now, there's like silly things that I avoid because I just hate it. I don't want to do it. I
hmm,
don't want to do it, but I like it's connected to the business moving forward or the podcast, whatever. And it's just like, just do it. And in my alarm, it's like, just please, could you please get it done so we don't have to do it next week?
yeah, yeah,
Like that plea from self to self, like,
yeah.
please just get it done. And I
Well,
think that works. It reminds me, like, oh, yeah, I really don't want to have to do this later. I'll just do it.
yeah.
Fine. I'll just do it now.
And there is something to that of not just the sort of tangible benefit of I did this thing and now this thing happens.
Mm,
But I think there's also something for the sort of intangible of like, I just did this thing and maybe the benefit hasn't even occurred yet, but like, I feel good about the fact that I did it. I'm
yeah.
going to give myself a bit of credit. I'm
Yeah.
going to acknowledge the fact that it was hard. And I'm going to feel good that, like, this is the little stuff that big things are built from. And that
Mm,
it's easy to miss the things you do well, right? We're all programmed to notice the negatives of like, well, I screwed that up,
yeah.
right? So you got to counterbalance by intentionally noticing some of the positives,
Mm,
not in this like, sort of overly
right.
sappy kind, but like in a legit kind of a way. And to not discount it as like, oh, well, everyone else just does it without thinking. Why am I throwing myself a parade, right? So like not that either, but just like, yeah, that
Mm,
was that was a good thing. Like there it is. That's me doing a better job on this kind of stuff. So
mm.
to really sort of be intentional about not just the doing, but the noticing and the appreciating, a little bit of a pat on the back.
I mean, do you feel like that's easy for people with ADHD? Because I can hear all of them screaming right
Yeah.
now. They're
Yeah.
all like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not going to let myself feel accomplished for something that is so easy for someone else.
Yeah.
Do you know, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do we like give permission for people to feel good? I feel like that is such a big part of what's working against someone with ADHD being productive is this like exactly what you're saying? Like, hey, you should feel actually accomplished about getting the thing done.
Yeah.
And an ADHD is like, no,
Right.
I'm not going to. What are you talking about?
I think some of it is it's just that thing of like, especially if you're scrambling, right? If you're rushing ahead to the next thing, you don't even pause long enough
That's
to
true.
consider it. So some
That's
of it's
true.
just like it's just gone. So I think a piece of it is that. Um, I think, but there is that other thing of exactly like you said, because for other people it's easy, therefore I can't give myself credit for doing
Right.
it. But the thing of it is, we all have things that are easy, right? So it doesn't feel like a big deal to have done it. But, and then when someone else is like, oh my God, I can't believe it, you're like, "Psh, whatever,
That's true.
right?" So we automatically kind of dismiss the things that are easy for us. But to recognize that not everything is easy or hard for every, it's not universal,
Yeah.
right? Like some things are very easy and some things are much harder.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's easy to someone else. It only matters if it's easy or hard to you.
Can you say that again?
It doesn't matter if it's easy or hard for other people. They're not the
Mm,
one who did it. You're
mm,
the one who did it. If it was hard, if it took intentional effort,
mm,
if it took kind of goodwill to do it and good intentions and, some good effort,
mm.
note it, right? Give yourself a little bit of credit for it.
Yeah.